Welcome at the Youth at Heart Forum of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today we are going to talk about a very important topic. How can we make youth engagement more meaningful around the world? And this session was actually organized by UNICEF and Generation Unlimited. And together we're actually going to explore how we can make youth engagement more meaningful, with several guests calling in from all over the world and also a live guest with me in the studio. However, we want to start off with a video, a beautiful rap song from Mohammed Bana. Let's watch it.
Young girl, young boy. Young girl, young boy, we got the right to be whatever we want to be. Anything other than that, don't believe. Young girl, young boy, we got the right to be whatever we want to be. Anything other than that, don't believe. Don't believe you don't have the same rights as me, 'cause you're under 18 and I'm 23. You the youth, the future all depends on you. If we deny rights for you, you go down, and if you go down, we're all going down too. And I'm just saying that 'cause I don't wanna be the one to blame. I do my part, but you gotta do the same. Go to school, in the end they're gonna give you a paper. This paper's a tool, don't believe anyone that tells you you don't need it. Whoever says that is a fool. If you feel the need to speak, stand up, get up out of your seat. Put your fears to the side, unleash the beast that lives in you. For better or worse, I'll be the first that believes in you. Young girl, young boy, we got the right to be whatever we wanna be. Anything other than that, don't believe. The youth are not a burden, they're an opportunity. They're the key to the future. So you just protect them, teach them, do whatever is needed for their peace and independence. And if you make space for them to speak and put their 2 cents in, we guarantee a return on your investment. I'm done.
Yeah, I really want to thank Mohammed Bana for this very beautiful rap song, because he really touches upon a very important point, the right to be. And that's actually what we're talking about today. How can we actually engage youngsters by not only listening to them, but also empowering them to hear from them what their possibilities are? Because right now it's very important to listen to the youngsters. And as you can see next to me, there are already a few guests calling in, and they're patiently waiting from all over the world. And there's also a live guest with me in the studio right now, the Dutch Ambassador for Youth Education and Work, Tijmen Roosboom. Tijmen, welcome.
Thank you, Saber.
Tijmen, we just listened to a very beautiful rap song. What were your first ideas?
No, it was very good, and I want to thank Mohammed for that rap as well. I think it was already very clear on the topic of meaningful youth engagement. I really liked the last sentence where he said, if you give youth the space to put in their 2 cents, you get a guaranteed return on investments. I would say a good return on investments. I mean, it's a clever play on words, and it's really what we're here about. It's not just the right thing to do to also invest in meaningful youth engagements and participation. It makes sense. There is a very young population, specifically in Africa and in the Middle East, and it makes sense to adapt what we do within our ministry for international development, actually to that young population.
Mm-hmm. And you're, of course, the Dutch ambassador representing the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Could you share the view of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs on making youth engagement meaningful?
Sure. I think, first of all, it's important to realize it's also about investing in the prospects of young people. It's also about their education, it's about work, it's about jobs and skills. But you can't talk about that without talking about the position of young people, the voice of young people. Are they actually engaged? Are they participating? For us, these are two sides of the same coin, and that's why we have the Youth at Heart strategy, That's why our minister, just in the Studio Orange moments ago, launched or presented the Youth Advisory Committee.
The Youth Advisory Committee?
Yes, and that's also why we are here. The Youth at Heart Virtual Forum, which really is the idea to bring players from different parts of society who are all relevant for jobs and skills for young people, together with young people. So I would say that that is our commitment, that is our work that we're doing.
Yeah, and Tijmen, you're one of the main organizers actually of this event. What do you wish as an outcome for this event at the end?
I really hope that it's not a one-off, that we stick together as a group. There was a whole road too leading to this moment here on the 2nd of November with very interesting events, and it's also wonderful events organized by UNICEF and Generation Unlimited, who are now organizing this session as well. And other partners organize things. Now it's coming together, right? On the 2nd of November. But there's a road after. We really need to stick together, to together spread that message that we need to invest in the prospects of young people, in their jobs, in their skills, and we need to do it together with them. And I hope there is a sort of energy today, although it's virtual, we can bring everyone together, all different type of players, and we can become a movement, and we stick together.
Well, thank you very much. I think let's explore how we can form this movement, as you're mentioning. And you will be sitting with me live in the studio, listening to all the remarks.
Yes.
So I'll be hearing more from you soon.
Yes, and I'll listen now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tijmen. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, as I mentioned, we will start with the dialogue. And you can also join in this dialogue. There will be a live chat where you can share your comments, your remarks, and your ideas. And if we have time, we can also ask them directly to the speakers. However, we have limited time, so please bear with us. Before we opening up the dialogue, I actually want to watch together a video of an inspiring youngster who's also participating in the dialogue. She's from Burundi, Maneno Bizimana, and she actually faced a big challenge with her community. Let's watch the video. Yeah, really beautiful to watch. And as I mentioned, Maneno, her entire community got displaced by a landslide. However, she decided to join the Upshift program and to turn her challenge into a possibility. Maneno will be live with us, and she will be speaking French, but will be translated in English, and everything I say will be translated in French to her. Maneno, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Maneno, we just watched a very inspiring video of you. Could you maybe share with us what your main challenge was and how did you overcome this challenge?
Bonjour, je m'appelle Maneno, j'ai 20 ans. Je viens d'une communauté de déplacés climatiques car nous avons dû quitter notre village. And
how was it for you to leave your village?
Nous avons quitté notre village car en 2018, à cause de parce que nous avons dû quitter un éboulement. Arrivé à Mayengo, notre village d'accueil, nous avons dû réapprendre parce que nous avons
And what made you decide to join the Upshift program and say, I want to change my situation?
J'ai participé dans le programme Upshift. Dans ce programme, nous avons identifié le problème qui handicape notre communauté en cherchant ses causes, conséquences et même les solutions idéales face à ce problème. Avec des amis, nous avons rejoint le programme Upshift. Nous avons identifié les programmes de la santé.
Okay, and Maneno, what is your main advice for the youngsters listening right now who might also face hardships? What would you advise them? How can you overcome such hardships?
Le message que je peux lancer aux jeunes, il ne faut jamais perdre l'espoir, ne pas avoir peur de recommencer à zéro. Chaque difficulté est une opportunité pour se relever, pour apprendre de nouvelles choses, pour rencontrer de nouvelles personnes.
Never losing hope. I think that's a very beautiful message. Thank you very much, Maneno. You'll be also listening live with us and still participating in the dialogue. So, and everything that's being said during the entire session will be translated to French. Thank you, Maneno. We're now moving to Miss Nadia Abdallah from the Kenyan government. She's actually one of the youngest she's one of the youngest members of the cabinet of the Kenyan government, and she's very passionate about voicing her opinion and also involving youngsters in the process. Ms. Abdallah, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Abdallah, as I mentioned, you're one of the youngest members of your cabinet. How did you do that at such a young age?
Yes, I'm actually the youngest, below the age of 30. I'm actually 29. And the only one in Kenya, I would say. And how I did it, I think I was innovative with how I was doing my things when it comes to working with the community, when it comes to working with the society. I was very passionate about young people voicing out their opinions in terms of policies, in terms of just the infrastructure of how young people have to be. And I maximized my space online, I would say that. A lot of times as young people, we use our online spaces to entertain ourselves. But in my case, I used my social media presence and also other presence to just harness my voice. I would do videos talking about different issues that young people have to fight for. I would champion a lot of issues, and I'm still very passionate about mental health. So I would come up with different small organizations within my community, and I would do just that. And, from there, the president identified me, and this year in January, I was able to be made one of the youngest chief administrative secretaries.
And Ms. Abdallah, you mentioned that you're a very passionate speaker about youth engagement. I've also watched your Instagram, where I see that you motivate youngsters in your country. Why is it so important that you speak up as a young leader?
I think it's important because as a young person, I know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. In Kenya, the young people here, we're very dynamic, we're very innovative, but a lot of times we are very scared of voicing out our opinions because we feel that we don't have the experience, or we feel that we are so young that we might make mistakes. So I try to let young people understand that by making mistakes, it's a way of learning.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a way of learning.
A way of learning, and your president and also the Kenyan government is very passionate about involving youngsters, and also are a strong advocate and also a partner of Generation Unlimited. Could you maybe share some of the projects or some of the experiences, recommendations from these projects?
Yes. So we have a very unique way of doing things for young people in the government of Kenya. So we have the government affirmative funds. I'll talk about that, where we have funds allocated separately for young people to be able to go and apply and get some funding with no interest in return, so that they can start their businesses, their small businesses, or so that they can or add on to the other businesses that they're doing. So we have one called Youth Enterprise Development Fund, where it caters for young people between the age of 18 to 35. So you can go access these funds between 100,000 to 5 million, and you can be able to be an entrepreneur or do better in your business. We also have another fund called Wesle Fund. Same thing, is for young people, so that they'll be able to access, but also get trained on how to be entrepreneurs and how to build their enterprises. Then we also have another program called Kenya Youth Employment Opportunities Project, which is a project between the Kenyan government with World Bank, where it's supposed to enhance employability, skills, learning and earning from the young people. And it teaches on basic entrepreneurship skills and technical learning. Now we know that there is the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of things has gone digital. We have something called a Jira Digital Program, where it's free programs that are given to young people so that they're able to enhance their social media presence or even start businesses online. And we provide different websites where young people can go and access other different businesses all over the world and globally. We have something called Giga Global Initiative, which it's basically to connect every school to the internet and every young person to information and opportunities of choice. So far, we've identified 1,160 primary schools, and we've connected them to the internet. And it has a potential to reach 300,000 children in all the 47 counties. There again, we have the Youth Agency Marketplace. This is a way to promote social innovation and civic engagement among the young people. And we are also trying to leverage on the innovations to enhance youth participation, which is very important, and engage in both the national and county level. From
Ms.
there,
Abdallah,
we also
Ms.
have...
Abdallah,
Yes.
I'm actually very impressed to hear all these recommendations and projects, because I've never imagined that the Kenyan government is doing all this. So really thank you for sharing this. It's very inspiring. And stay tuned, because we're actually going right now to a speaker from a young guy, a young innovator from Algeria, calling in live, Rafiq Amrani, because Rafiq Amrani is one of the member of a young people action team and has been working together in Algeria, but also in Lebanon, to make sure that youngsters are represented, that youngsters are heard, and also making sure that the education works for them through democratic values. Rafiq, welcome. You did so many things. Rafiq, you are an influencer. And you're a young guy. How did you do that? How did you influence projects such as Generation Unlimited to listen to you?
Actually, I just started 3 years ago with a passion for the educational system. It was more of a frustration that I felt we are not learning enough. We are not learning enough skills that are relevant to the current job market. And the idea started just like that. So I wanted to add just a few things to the curriculum system. And after a few iterations, we just felt that there is a whole 21st century skills that we need to acquire, that youth need to acquire. And how I influenced Genu, it's more of how Genu let me and also heard our thoughts on a grassroots level. Because here we are the youth, and when presented with the idea of Generation Unlimited, what I like the most is from the youth to the youth. So it's enabling youth as problem solvers. So it was very smooth. It was very easy for me to share my thoughts, to share what I live as a youngster from Algeria, or from a country where the educational system is not the sharpest. And so it was very natural, and they were very welcoming to the ideas that we gave, me and the fellow YPatters. And I'm very grateful for that, and also thanks to Easy, who was also a part of this. And building on that, it just grew organically to make all the pieces connect together. And I was just building on what Tamin was saying. It's all coming together, and now it's all coming together, but stronger.
All coming together, really beautiful, Rafiq. And what would you advise youngsters that are watching live with us right now and are like, well, I want to influence as well? What's your advice? My
first advice, and most important, is that to follow your passion and also to believe in yourself that you can be a problem solver and not just as a problem. Just like on the first rap song that we heard, you are not the burden. You are the solution. You are tomorrow's leaders. So that's very powerful as an idea to be your own problem solvers. So the youth need to look out for other youth and solve their problems.
Thank you very much. You're part of the solution and not the problem. Beautiful words. Thank you, Rafiq. Stay with us. And I'm very pleased to announce that we also have with us live from Jordan, the Minister of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship, Mr. Al-Hanande. Mr. Al-Hanande, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much for making time. Mr. Al-Hanande, you are, of course, the minister. How do you make sure that you involve and give youngsters the opportunity to be engaged in everything the government does?
Thank you very much. First, thank you for the invitation. And I have to say something. I'm the minister for the last couple of weeks only. I come straight from running my own startup studio, working closely with the youth all the time. So I have been on the complaining side of the formula. Now I'm with the government team, and I feel seriously responsible to make sure that we work very hard to achieve what the youth in Jordan are dreaming of. As you all, I don't know if you know, but Jordan youth represent around 70% of the population in Jordan, which means they're actually the center of our planning and management and implementation at all levels. They are the center of our attention at the direction of His Majesty the King. So at the government side, and to be honest, it sounds weird for me talking as the government now. I'm just new to that, so you'll have to excuse me. At the government side, we're trying to maximize the engagement and the role of the youth in the decision making and making the future of the country as much as possible. Personally, I'm a strong believer that the development of any country is simply the youth dreams and passion and their hard work towards achieving that, and that's what makes the real difference. And us, we need to be basically the enabler for them to be able to do that. There are plenty of projects and initiatives and programs that the government overall is trying to do to maximize not to maximize, to provide the youth with the healthy environment and the ecosystem that allows them to excel and to achieve their dreams and passions. We're starting at the education now. At the education side, we're trying as much as we can with all the transformation that we're living worldwide to balance the supply and demand and to make sure that they are upskilled at schools and ready for whatever comes after school. We're working so much on the entrepreneurial ecosystem and to make sure that the youth have the chance to create their own projects. We're even working on certain regulations to support the social innovation for youth and to allow them to participate through their own projects. On the other side, we're trying to engage the private sector as much as possible. I have been always a person who calls for the private sector involvement and to give the private sector the chance to work closely with the government towards working on the proper ecosystem. So it's on the plan and it's on the agenda, and we are working closely with the private sector to make sure that they are as engaged as possible and to have to play their role in creating the right path, the right environment for the youth, and to make sure that they are as engaged, as skillful as needed for them to make the difference we're looking for. On the other side, and as a digital economy ministry, we're building the proper infrastructure. We're trying to be as much as possible data-driven. We're building our national information center that makes the access to the information as easy as possible, where we built over that an API platform. All of this has been done to allow innovation and to open the door for the youth to and the entrepreneurs of the youth to come and participate in the transformation process that we're trying to achieve. And all of that is in order to support the economical and the social sustainability in the country.
Mr. Al-Hanande,
yes.
Thank you very much for sharing your points of views. I think the Jordan government is also doing quite a lot to involve youngsters. And it's funny that you actually mentioned the private sector, because we have now heard from youngsters and from two important policymakers, and we actually have someone from the private sector calling in live from Paris, who maybe can share and build upon your points you just provided, because we have... but before we do that, I actually want to go to Taime. Taime?
Yes.
You have news for us?
Well, I just was informed that it's actually really nice that we have people in the chat from all over the world now. We got questions from the Philippines, from Brazil, from Kenya, from the Gambia.
Oh, lovely.
So that's really interesting to see how this is actually obviously a topic that touches upon young people all over the world and who are engaging right now. Well, that's on topic, right?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. For all of you watching with us, it's really nice to hear that you're from so many different countries and that you're actually so involved in this discussion. Thank you, Taiman. As I mentioned, we're going to the private sector because I want to hear from a young leader actually as well. Izzy, she's calling in live from France and she's actually representing Unilever. Izzy, welcome.
Great. Hi everyone. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on this panel as a young-ish person myself, and especially working on Unilever's global youth strategy, but also having recently returned from a one-year secondment at Generation Unlimited, where I was working on youth engagement, and I helped set up the Young People's Action Team, which Rafik is part of, and so it's very nice to see you. So if I switch hats and kind of talk from a private sector perspective, so we know that business has a key role to play in providing opportunities that empower young people to take action and to own their future. And those opportunities really revolve around skills training and employment. We know that the lack of employment pushes young people to the margins of society, making them less able to contribute to the national development of their country, but also reducing their opportunities to exercise their rights as citizens. And of course, from a pragmatic business perspective, we have a clear interest in ensuring that education and training systems also kind of create the skilled labor force that we need for the future and that we need to be successful. So actually at Unilever, we always say that young people are our future employees, they're our future consumers, they're our future workforce across the public, private sector side. And so in short, they're our future makers. So that's why we have been developing initiatives that provide those opportunities to young people. We, of course, have initiatives more from an HR side that are all about the apprenticeship schemes, making sure that they're accessible to as many people as possible, inclusive opportunities, but also building partnerships with universities around student placements, business competition, so that young people can already kind of try out and try their skills. But also many of our brands build their purpose. So what we call purpose, which is really, the positive difference that they want to make in the world and that they can make.
Yeah, the difference they can make in the world, Izzy. I think that's quite important, and that the private sector is playing an important role, and that Unilever is doing a really great job. Thank you for your remarks, and stay tuned with us, because right now we're actually going to the UNICEF Chief of Adolescent Development and Participation. She's calling in live from New York, Jumana Haj Ahmed. Jumana, welcome.
Thank you, Sabir.
Yeah, Jumana, you have heard all these remarks from very different perspectives. What is your first impression?
Thanks, Sabir, and I'm very happy to be here today. Well, we've heard from Maneno and Rafik today, as well as Izzy, about the power of meaningful engagement of young people. and how they can be partners in driving positive change within their societies if given the opportunity. And supporting young people's engagement, meaningful engagement, is an organizational priority for UNICEF. So while we continue to invest in young people's health and well-being, learning, safety and protection, we acknowledge that these young people are resources and assets, and empowering them is key to driving change. We also know it's a right on its own for them to participate, to express their views and opinions. And it's a strategy to leverage action and achieve inclusive and stable societies by 2030. Without investing and partnering with young people in both development and humanitarian settings, we will not deliver on the 2030 agenda. And some of our priorities include: one, providing young people with the skills they need for learning, communication, negotiation skills, decision-making. Two, strengthening systematic and meaningful engagement of young people in their daily lives through student councils, local councils, volunteering schemes, as well as digital platforms where young people are more and more engaging. And the third priority for us is strengthening partnerships with youth organizations and youth leaders.
Yeah, because Jumana, funny that you mention it, because you're saying there's so many opportunities and there's so many possible. How can actually partners help UNICEF to support this mission?
So partners can be government, private sector, as you said, civil society organizations, opening their doors, having young people at the heart of their strategies, plans, community work, and designing and implementing with them, making sure that we are listening to them meaningfully. We're taking their views and opinions into consideration when we make our decisions, when we prioritize our investments, resources, as well as action within the society, making sure that we amplify the voices of young people, particularly those who are not heard, adolescent girls, persons with disabilities, migrants, and refugees. Like today's panel, for example, having young people's voices heard in a global event like today is really something that all of us should be doing more and more in the daily action, where they are in schools as well as local councils. So giving them the space is essential. And through young people's engagement, they will be leveraging their large population to bring attention and action to important issues, such as ending poverty, gender equality, climate change. Ultimately, they will be the ones to shape their own future.
Okay, shaping their own future. Before we actually go to the live chat, we're going to watch a project in Zimbabwe where youngsters made their own space by making sure that they worked on a project on education leadership. Let's watch that video.
So what we did is UNESCO reports that in the sub-Saharan Africa, we have an average of 14 students sharing a single textbook. And we were actually some of the students who felt this pain. So back in the days when we were in high school, it was very difficult for us to access past exam papers.
In the rural areas of Zimbabwe, around 8 students are sharing the same textbook. It's an online platform that has everything educational, from textbooks, past exam papers, marking schemes, which is providing this for a sub-Saharan secondary to tertiary education student. We've learned a lot in Cairo. The boot camp was actually beneficial. So we now want to take what we have learned in Cairo and apply it in Chun Finance so that you can apply it in Zimbabwe so that we can scale our program.
Yeah, we just received some questions from you, and we actually have time for one question. And there is a burning question for Ms. Abdallah from Kenya. One of the people is actually asking you, what was the role of youth in the policy-making process for these funds you talked about?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, so thank you very much for the question. So if you look at our Kenya Youth Development Policy, you'll realize that we've really divided the role of the young people into three subsections, which is the social role, the economic role, and the political role. So in all these three roles, young people have a chance to actually access these different funds that they need to access in order for them to participate in implementation processes or in creating social engagements or civic education from time to time. So actually the policy that is there is really centered and catered to the young people of Kenya, and it's easier for them to really understand and now articulate it well as they move forward when it comes to participation and educating themselves as they move forward from the process.
Well, thank you very much for this answer. And it also helps to have a young leader in the cabinet of the Kenyan government, of course. Right now, we're actually going to close off the dialogue. And I want actually commitments from all of you. For example, well, I will commit to making sure that young people can talk with each other and talk with policymakers and private sectors to find solutions. Maneno, what is your main commitment, very briefly?
Je m'engage à continuer à donner des informations précises à mes pairs et aux membres de la communauté pour leur permettre de prendre des décisions éclairées sur leur avenir. Je suis sûre que l'information est un pouvoir.
Thank you very much, Maneno. Thank you very much for sharing these points. And right now we will go to Ms. Nadia Abdallah. What is your main commitment?
I commit to advocate for more investment in programs and initiatives that will ensure the youth are educated, equipped, and empowered with the right skills that unlock their potential, under the leadership of the President, who is a strong advocate for young people and Generation Unlimited leader.
Thank you very much, Ms. Abdallah. We're going back to Algeria, to our big friend Rafiq. Rafiq, what's your main commitment?
Hey, Sabr. I commit to using the space of Generation Unlimited to highlight the voice of the most marginalized and disadvantaged young people, and also to connect these young people with opportunities and empower them as problem solvers.
Thank you very much, Rafiq. And we go to the Minister, Mr. Al-Hanande.
Yeah, thank you very much again. Actually, I commit to working at all times towards the government to ensure, or to make sure that the government ensures meaningful engagement of the young people in all, especially in volunteering and civic engagement. We'll create for them the space, we'll give them the resources, and we'll make sure that we create the ecosystem that helps them to make the change that they want.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Hanande. And we're going to Izzy, live from Paris.
So I commit to listening to what young people have to say and not assuming that I know what they actually need.
Yeah, and last but not least, of course, Jumana from New York.
Thank you, Sabir. I commit to continue working with our partners to mobilize action and resources to systematically invest in young people's empowerment, meaningful engagement, and leadership.
Thank you very much, Humana. Thank you very much. I would like to thank all the panelists for all these beautiful commitments and these beautiful perspectives. I think we quite learned a lot and did it in a very compact session. So thank you very much, and please stay tuned with us, because I actually want to go back to our Dutch ambassador for youth education and work, Tijmen Rosenboom.
Yes.
Tijmen, we've just listened to all beautiful commitments.
Yes.
What's your commitment?
Well, my commitment is, let's say, what the title of today's virtual forum is. I really commit that we keep the youth at heart. So that means that we keep the specific challenges and opportunities of young people at the heart of our development cooperation and of our international dialogue. Mm-hmm. And one other way in which we can do it, and I can build a bridge actually to why people should not just stay tuned during this session, but also stay tuned on the whole platform, is that actually we will present the principles, Youth at Heart principles, that were made by youth and for youth, and with by the organization called Resist Development, with a lot of great support from Generation Unlimited and UNICEF, that really captures the voice of young people. And that is also, they also challenge us to think how we keep the youth at heart and how we actually work on their prospects and do it with them as partner. So for me, that is my commitment. That commitment is that it doesn't end today. No, it starts today.
It starts today. And Tijmen, actually, one of the questions from the people watching with us right now, they were actually triggered because you mentioned the Youth Advisory Board that is just launched right now.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Of course. I mean, we presented it.
Yeah.
It's not there yet.
Okay.
So I would say keep a good eye on our website, on our Youth at Heart website, because we will actually start asking for people to apply the moment that we actually have it all established. So watch this space, I would say. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. You know, I'm trying to become an influencer. You're helping me out, Saber.
Yeah, on Instagram.
On Instagram, exactly. So to actually keep an eye on this space, because there's more to follow.
Okay, more coming soon. Okay.
Yes, we developed this committee actually with our youth partners, with the whole framework, with Choice and with the National Youth Council from the Netherlands and with the think tank at the ministry. So it's there, but hold the space. Keep an eye on us.
Okay, quite mysterious. But,
exactly,
no,
like not mysterious, it's just a cliffhanger.
A cliffhanger, of course. And Tijmen, at the beginning we were talking, of course, about this event, and you also mentioned starting a movement.
Yeah.
If you hear all these commitments, is this already starting like a movement?
It does feel like it, right? I really like the way that people ended with commitments, because it shows how they will keep the youth at heart and how they will work on meaningful engagement. I should say, having seen government with minister, who I specifically want to thank as well, and from Jordan, and then and government from Kenya, we got private sector, international organizations, and inspiring young people. Such a positive story, right? It really feels like this is a broad movement, and we need everyone on board.
We need everyone on board. And of course, one of the main outcomes of this session, what you mentioned, the different commitments, the different starting a movement. Are there some other because at the beginning I also asked you for what you hope for as an outcome.
Yeah.
Did you also have another takeaway from this session?
Yes, what I really noticed were some of those, about what I said, some of those positive stories. We saw the videos, but we also heard some of the young speakers. We heard Manana, we heard from Zimbabwe, we heard from different places where there were actually, you saw that COVID hits young people seriously. But it's really good to see how they try to make it into a positive action within their community. You know, not just thinking about how their prospects are being hit, but actually a positive role. I think that is very clear from this, and then it's up for policymakers to facilitate that. Yeah, to facilitate that. Well, we will stay tuned, because after this session we have many more sessions, of course. And actually, we're at the end of this session. I really want to thank Tijmen Rosenboom, again, our Dutch ambassador for youth education and work, for your input and for your work. And I also actually want to thank all the panelists, all the speakers who provided their unique perspectives, but also their commitments. And I actually want to thank you watching live with us, asking us questions, making sure there are comments, even though we didn't have a lot of time to ask them. But still, in the next session, we might have more time. In the next session, we will talk about talent on the move. How can we reimagine talent on the move? But for now, this session, we're coming at the end. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon in the next session.
there is no better opportunity than to look at digital innovations than the time we are living in now. My name is Tay. I'm the author of the book, The Invisible Sun, a tech entrepreneur in my day-to-day activities. I aspire to be a billionaire in terms of influencing the lives of billions of people positively. Bitcoin helped us to break the financial barriers. Can it help us break the identity barriers? COVID for me is an opportunity to solve world-class challenges, such as physical money, where money can contract viruses and bacteria. So being a Bitcoin expert, I'm able now to accelerate the adoption of digital currencies. My message is focus on education. Today we can use digital innovations and digital infrastructure to deliver the same quality and even better education to everyone, including refugees, including the vulnerable ones. The youth is at the heart of any nation. Join us at the digital conference and use your voice to make a difference.
Monsieur le dirigé, je ne suis pas là pour vous porter préjudice. Juste pour qu'ensemble nous trouvons un nom à cet enfant. Dois-je le nommer corruption, démocratie des façades ou contrat d'indépendance? J'aurais voulu le nommer corruption, car je me souviens de cette nuit que j'ai passée en harmonie avec cet homme corrompu qui me disait « Si tu me choisis, tu rentreras avec moi dans le paradis. » Sans pour autant avoir une garantie, j'ai fait une confiance aveugle en ses parachutes jusqu'au jour où il m'amène dans un bar acquis et me disait « C'est ici ton paradis. » Ici-bas, on a tous notre paradis. Il suffit d'avoir juste un parent à titre. Je lui dis, tiens bon, ça tombe bien, ça fait bien des siècles que j'ai requis en sorte. Pour commencer, je voudrais bien te demander d'où vient toute cette richesse. Le blanchiment d'argent, si tu veux savoir. Tu t'en doutes, je connais bien la loi. Ce n'est pas moi seul qui vole. On a tous notre compte à rendre, mais à qui les rendre si ça nous arrange? Ébahi, j'ai fait mes bagages. Seul l'amour peut guérir la blessure d'amour, alors j'ai décidé de reprendre le train. Mais cette fois-ci, avec beaucoup de crainte. Et sur le cours de ma route, j'ai croisé la démocratie. Un être libre avec toutes ses formes. Un être vibre au visage qui déforme. Alors j'ai décidé de nommer cet enfant démocratie des façades. Avec elle, j'étais à l'aise. J'avais la liberté totale. Liberté d'expression, liberté de cohésion, liberté morale. Foutaise. Liberté de frapper un chef d'État. Liberté de mener un coup d'État dans un État démocratique. Foutaise. Avec elle non plus, on ne menait pas un bon train. Alors j'ai décidé. Et si je nommais cet enfant contrat d'indépendance? Avec lui, c'était un ouf. Le jour où il est venu, il m'avait prévenu et m'avait dit, tiens-toi droit et profite du temps que je passe avec toi car je suis là que pour un bout de temps. Sans pour autant croire à tout ce qu'il me disait, je me saoulais sa présence et fête ma jouvence. Avec lui, après le cinquantenaire, bienvenue la colonisation, bienvenue la culturation, bienvenue la rébellion. Adieu la liberté, la tranquillité, la solidarité, la souveraineté. Adieu les belles paroles. À toi non plus, je ne pourrais nommer cet enfant. Alors, le monde de mon enfant restera toujours en stand-by. Aidez-moi à lui trouver un nom, s'il vous plaît. La plus belle merveille du monde, celle qui t'a apporté dans ses entrailles. Celle qui t'est sous toi lorsqu'il y a une faille. Elle porte en elle nos souvenirs d'enfance, nos cris, nos joies, nos souffrances. On lui doit respect et considération. Elle, c'est ta mère, c'est sûr. De l'amour. Elle doit être la prunelle de tes yeux. Tu as juré devant les hommes et devant Dieu. Pour les meilleurs et pour les pires, tu l'aimeras. Elle a quitté les siens pour devenir la tienne. Elle porte dans ses entrailles ta progéniture. Elle a besoin d'attention, de tendresse, de la chaleur de tes mains qui caressent, des mots qui rassurent la confiance. Elle, c'est ta femme, c'est sûr. De l'amour, Homme, Ne violente pas la femme. Elle est ta sœur, ta femme, ta fille. Homme, ne violente pas la femme. Elle a besoin que tu la protèges, que tu la respectes, que tu la chérisses, que tu la câlines. Elle te respecte. Elle t'appelle papa. T'as appris à te sentir papa. Elle porte ton nom. Elle, c'est ta fille, c'est sûr. De l'amour, de l'amour. C'est barbare, sauvage, inhumain. Rien que penser à toutes ces victimes de la violence faite à nos mamans et sœurs. Regardez ce qu'ils en ont fait à Yvonne, mon amie ivoirienne. À Gogo, ma cousine Tamashek, à Wallet, ma nièce Gawaz. Je me sens revivre cette époque coloniale. Une époque où la femme n'avait droit à aucun respect, aucune dignité. S'il vous plaît, ne régressons pas. Envisagez un monde nouveau pour les femmes, tous ensemble. Plus jamais de femmes battues, plus jamais de femmes violées, plus jamais de mariages forcés, plus jamais de femmes sauvagement tuées, plus jamais ça, plus jamais ça, plus jamais ça. Une pensée vers les victimes de la violence qui sont et qui resteront à jamais dans l'histoire du Mali. Khadija Diallo, Mariam Diallo, Kamisa Sissoko et tant d'autres. Dormez en paix. Le monde ne vous oubliera jamais.
Yeah, welcome back at the Youth at Heart Forum of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in this session, we're actually going to talk about a very important topic. We're going to explore together how, like, possibilities and unproven talent in places you wouldn't expect. Because would you expect talented people in refugee camps. And that's something we're going to explore together. We have live guests from all over the world calling in, sharing their unique stories. I'm Sarah Benja, your host of today. And there we see our guests. I'm just waving to them. Hi all. Hi, hi. Welcome, welcome. Before we starting off to our guests, I actually would like to say that this session was made available by UNICEF and Generation Unlimited, and together we're going to explore again all these beautiful stories. And I actually want to kick off this session with a beautiful hero film about Aboud, who actually was a refugee and turned into a violinist. Let's watch that video. Yeah, there was such a very inspiring video about Aboud, and to see how he turned the challenge actually into an opportunity, a very beautiful opportunity. And we'll be hearing stories from people live with us, but before we do that, you can also ask questions in the live chat again. You can make your comments, you can make your remarks, and hopefully you can also ask them to the questions to the speakers directly. My first guest of today is a very special guest. She's very passionate about education because she's an education activist. She was a former Syrian refugee but is right now studying in the UK, and she's also a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. Muzun Al-Malan, welcome.
Hi, how are you? And I'm so excited to be here with everybody. I hope you are all well.
Thank you very much, Muzun. I'm doing fine. Good to see you again. Muzun, I just mentioned your story. Like, who are the people in your life that actually unlocked your potential in your journey?
It actually started with the whole family, basically. For example, they have been so encouraging to all of us, especially to my father and his actually sisters and his brothers as well. And they always believe in education as a great way to achieve their goals and to be effective in their society, but also who has a direct impact on my life. My father, of course, he always encouraging me and stands with me basically to achieve my goals, but also to help me to help others and to give them hope and to encourage them to believe in their rights and to give them a better life.
Yeah, beautiful. And as I mentioned before, you're an education activist. Why are you so passionately speaking about education?
This is such a great question because education has been a very important part of my life, and it has played a significant role as it helped me to find hope when there was darkness. Actually, I have gone through many challenges in my life, starting with the war in Syria, then living in refugee camps. But because of education, because I was able to continue my studies, I am Muzun who's today. I am Muzun who can speak for others, not only for herself, but she can speak on behalf of millions around the world. And that's because of education, because the power of education has given me in my life, and it has given me confidence to speak out, to use my voice, and to encourage others also to believe in education, because I believe education is not important to Muzun alone. It is important for everybody. Everyone in this world, especially children, they deserve to go to school, no matter where they are, no matter how old they are. They deserve to find a quality education, and they deserve to go to school and to find safety when they go to school, because it is not their fault to lose their rights, in particular education. And education is not a privilege, it is a right, indeed, and it must given to everybody. So we see how education has impact and positive impact indeed on my life, and I can see it for everybody around the world. That's why I didn't give up speaking on behalf of others. That's indeed, now I can go to university, I can study, I have like access to most of my rights in my life right now. But I didn't give up, because there are millions out there, they still cannot go to school. That's why I will never give up until every one of them, they can have access to opportunities like I do, and like many of us have access to them, and we take them for granted. So we shouldn't take this stuff for granted. We must feel the value of education and how education could be lost at any moment. I didn't expect when I was in Syria I would lose my education. Like 11 years ago, I was living in a peaceful country. Syria was so peaceful, and I was going to school like, here in Europe and like other parts of the world where they have access to education, and they took it for granted as well. But I didn't realize how important to appreciate what we have until actually the war started. And at just a few minutes, I wasn't able to go to school, and I wasn't feel safe to continue my education. So
Muzun,
also we have
Muzun,
to...
I can tell you're very passionate about education, and I can see it from your eyes, and it's very important because you mentioned unlocking potential, and that's very important that education does that as well. We have both been playing a game, Unlocking Your Potential. Shall we just watch the video of the game?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I played a game, Unlocking Potential, where you can choose a few characters, where you actually choose a refugee, and your goal is to actually become a doctor. So you're coming across many obstacles. So you see it actually feels like doodle jump for the ones that know that. And yeah, I had to jump, I had to receive my super strength, and there you see, in the end, I didn't do that well. However, I became a doctor. But this game is actually about the journey of refugees. So you'll face the same journey, however, you'll face also obstacles, and it's up to you how you overcome these obstacles. Muzun, you've been playing this game as well. How do you feel about this game?
I feel so great, and it is so inspiring. It really reminded me of, similar challenges, to be honest, and how I faced these challenges. I played also the character of the doctor, which is actually the same as you did, which is really great. And I saw how at the end we can reach to our goals, no matter what difficulties we face. At the end we can prove ourselves. And
at the end we can prove ourselves, Muzun. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you very much for these remarks. Thank you very much for your beautiful story, and hopefully hearing from you more soon. We're going now live to Niels Den Haas. He's the Goodwill Community Manager, and currently people are also, you are watching with us, but also there are people watching live from Instagram. Niels, welcome.
Hello. So, Dior, I get tuned into the meeting with Saber. Yes, Saber.
Yeah, I can hear you, Niels. Thank you very much. Niels, how many people are watching right now on Instagram?
Well, currently we have 13 live and 200 ones who passed by, and we're going deep into the story of the Awara and also hearing how harsh it is to be on the move as a youth, to be almost forced out of your own country and try to sustain yourself. And we really hear a beautiful story of someone who does not only care about themselves, about finding their own talent, but caring so much for friends that he brings in his friends to safety and inspires them. So this is a really touching story, and our community is really engaged with it.
And are there any questions also so far based on the story of Muzoon from Instagram, or any other questions?
The question is really for our speaker here, and not so much on the session that you're running right now, as it's just a live. Yeah, they're so engaged with the story of the UR right now, so I don't have any questions here for you. No.
Yeah, and maybe some people, you mentioned Jiwara. Jiwara is actually talking with you how he, as a refugee, went actually to Italy and to unlock his potential. Could you maybe share a little bit more about Jiwara for the people who are watching with us and think, huh, who's Jiwara?
Yeah, definitely. So the Awara is we're still live on Instagram right now. So here's what I say about him. He came from Mali. He was kind of forced out of the country due to the situation. His mother died very young, who was his role model. And he had to take an unhumane tour through the Sahara to go back to, well, what they call safety in Algeria, and kind of was used more as a slave there, earned very little money. But he found his way to support himself. And again, what I said, his first priority was not to make himself better, but then to have his friends not grow to the same situation, to inspire his friends to do better and buy tickets for them so they could fly into Algeria to have work, or France, instead of them also going to the Sahara. So it's a really touching story.
Okay. Well, Niels, thank you very much. And I'll be coming back soon again to you. And good luck with the conversation on Instagram Live. Thank you very much, Niels. And bye-bye. And now we're actually going back. We're going to watch a video about a very inspiring youngster, who actually also faced a challenge in Burundi with the displaced community and actually joined the Upshift program. We're actually going to watch the video of Anita. Let's watch it.
Hano hari inzu y'iwacu, inzu yaraza gushika ino hari tariki 29 z'ukwezi kwa gatatu 2015 mu gihe twatangura guhura n'ikiza c'amazi. Uruzi mu kumanuka rwaciye hagati nyene y'inzu haruguru yaho twari. Rero mu kugira turokoke twumvise ibintu bihindagira cyane mwibarabara ko twari tugegereye, turarondera iyo tuja kugira ngo dukize ubuzima. Ico gihe bishika niga mu mwaka wa gatanu uko vyashitse mu gice ca kabiri, amakaye yaragiye, uniforme ziragenda, ibirato biragenda. Ababanyi twahasanze vy'ukuri ubwa mbere baraduhaye ubwakiranyi, twarabishima cyane. Nko mu gihe twavuye mu kigo iwacu tukaja kuvoma iwabo, twabatanze bagaca bonga kudusubiriza ivyombi inyuma, akaba aribo batangura kuvoma. Twaravyihanganira kuko bari baduhaye impanuro nyinshi cyane. Ntaho dufise turima atari ngaha nyene impande y'inzu, canke ngo aho twokora akantu twashobora kuvuga ati kano kantu tukagurishije ko shobora kudufasha, ntaho dufise. Ndashobora kugenda kuri abo basangwa twasanzeho nkabasaba isombe, hanyuma bakampa, nkaca niyumvira mbega iryo sombe twayiteka turiko ziki. Kuva nkura sinari bwaje mu bitaro canke ngo mpure n'ingwara yo kuguma ndahwa, yo gusha cyane mu nda, yo gutimba ku mubiri. Mama ntivyamworoheye kuko papa ntiyari hafi yacu. Mama niho yacafatikanya n'ababanyi arantwara ku bitaro, bica bisaba yuko ibihe vyose nomara nko mu bitaro nk'amezi atatabura. Rero nico gituma bitakunze ko mbandanya kw'ishure, abavyeyi barahangayitse, barabura ibikoresho, barabura amahera y'ishure, n'isaha na kano kanya. Nico gituma nange gusubira kw'ishure, iyo niyo ngorane nahuye nayo. Nkuko mbona nkiri muto, ndifuza kwiga kandi ndifuza gufasha ugwaruka nkanje kuko nka kare tugishitse ngaha narashobora gufasha ubwana buto buto bw'ipfuvyi. Shift Burundi iradufasha dusha dukorana hamwe turi abajene batanu turiyumvira mbega hano mu kigwati wacu ikiduhanze n'igiki abajene bashoboye kubura impanuro hakiri kare baguma basama inda z'indaro inda zitifujwe. Muri ico gihe dushoboye kwicara hamwe turi batanu twariyumviye baratubwira turavuga ati none mbega uyo mugambi wacu twashoboye kuvuga twashoboye kwiyumvira twowushikako gute. Dusha dufata umugambi wuko twofasha abo bantu baguma basama imbanyi zitifuje mu kubaha impanuro no kuza turabirukira tukabaha inyigisho natwe tuba twakuwe muri Shift. Jewe ndi umwe kw'isi yose n'abandi ko ndahura n'ibibazo bijanye n'ihindagurika ry'igihe hariho abanduta nabo nduta nashobora bwa mbere kubaho kwihangana mu buzima bwose bariko babamo ntibace batawakuba canke ngo bashobore kuma biyumvira yuko bashobora kuja mu buhumbu canke naho ngo baje konona ibintu vy'abandi ngo nuko baba bashonje ntibagume batenyenye ku murongo bagume bihangana yakoze biriya n'ibindi zobikora.
Yeah, a very inspiring video from Anita, and it's really touching to see how she took the challenges and actually made it into an opportunity. And I've heard that so many people, youngsters from all over the world, you are watching live right now from countries like Malawi, Kenya, Zimbabwe, the Philippines even. Again, welcome. And I would like to say to you, to all the participants, if you have a question to a speaker, make sure that you click on the Ask the Speaker button and that you ask your question. So we will make sure that your questions are being heard. So thank you very much. And right now we're actually going to talk about, when you have to start all over again, you have to reimagine your future. And that's why the Reimagine Your Future Challenge has been launched. How can you make sure that your skills are used in a very efficient but also in a very good way to have a bright future? And today I'm actually going to talk with two inspiring youngsters about this topic. In front of me, I'm actually seeing many different guests who we'll be talking to. But for this session, I'm actually going to talk with Kotada Yunus, calling in live from Sweden. And I'm also talking with Alexandra Muntean. Alexandra Muntean is actually a student activist, and she has also been a key person in making sure that the Reimagine Your Future Challenge has been launched in a very good way. Alexandra, welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for the invitation. Hi.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Alexandra, as I mentioned, you have participated in the Reimagine Your Future Challenge. How did you feel completing this challenge? And can you tell us a bit more about it?
Of course, thank you. So especially during this global pandemic and with how the world is changing right now, we kind of had to reimagine our future anyway. So if you ask me, the Reimagine Challenge couldn't have come in a better moment in time, because it's exactly the push and support young people need to reimagine how we can achieve our dreams. And probably many of us asked ourselves the question of, yes, my dream is not possible, so I should give it up anyway. But for me, the challenge was like a breath of fresh air, and it helped me overcome this phrase and really put into a sentence what I want to do in life. And it was like working on a really, really important project or school paper, and you want it to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Only this time, the project is your life and your dreams, and you get to design it. When I first left home, Romania, I would have loved to have something like the Reimagine Challenge to help me put my dreams into order and make a battle plan on how to make it as a young migrant in a new country. And especially when you leave to achieve your dreams, it's everything but easy. And the outcome of the Reimagine Challenge, the future canvas you do for yourself, would have helped me very much in my migration journey. What the challenge is really about, well, you can think of it as a very nice and easy design process of your biggest dream, from brainstorming up to its step-by-step implementation. And of course, it is not a perfect solution for everything, but it might be the exact drop of motivation or support you might be missing to start your business or to do a project you always wanted to do. And even if it doesn't guarantee that your dreams go through from one day to another, it can help you find how the steps towards it might look like. And the outcome of the challenge is a vision of your hopefully very bright future. It asks you all the right questions and challenges you to really understand what your dream is about. And you get to rethink your surroundings. What are your strengths? What are the people that support you? And very importantly, where your motivation comes from. It's like an individual toolbox. You get to achieve your dreams with your superpowers, superheroes as mentors, and a lot of great resources. And the challenge,
Alexandra, you mentioned it's a toolkit with so many opportunities. Why is it so important right now to launch this Reimagine Your Future challenge?
I think it's really important because right now we might feel stuck in our everyday life and feel that we are missing opportunities. And this challenge helps you to really put your goals into order. And it doesn't stop there. It provides you with opportunities at the end, like courses, mentors, or even scholarship, job ideas, and a network full of similar change makers that go through the same journey as you. So it creates a network of support and helps you really launch your dreams. So it's not just an imagination exercise of how your future might look like, but it's also the start of the change towards your dream.
Well, Alexandra, thank you very much. And of course, you can find more information about the Reimagine Your Future Challenge on the platform, but also in the chat. So please make sure that you fill it in after this session, of course, to see these opportunities on this platform and to make sure that you get to know yourself together, that you're connected with others, but also that you get to see opportunities like work and scholarships. Thank you, Alexandra. And right now we're going to Kotada. Kotada is actually a former refugee. He fled from the circumstances in Syria and came to Sweden, had to start all over again, but is now the founder and CEO of one of the most promising media companies in Sweden and one of the largest Arabic media platforms in Sweden. Kotada, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Kotada, as I mentioned, you had to start over from the beginning. What were some of the challenges you had to overcome, and how did you do that?
So there's actually two challenges. But before I go into that, I want to say that actually my grandparents were refugees as well. They migrated all the way from Palestine to Syria in 1948. And I couldn't ever imagine that I will do the same journey to go from Syria to Sweden. I would say I had a little bit better luck because they walked all the way from Palestine to Syria. I took a different route to Europe. I actually had a visa to Denmark and I stayed in Sweden. The challenge of being a refugee in a new country is two things. Is everyone want to look pathetic on you and ask you about the past and don't want to ask you about the future. And the second challenge is you are without a network. So I think in general, how you come over that is by telling people, don't ask me so much about the past, and can you please ask me about what do I want, what do I need, and about the future more than about the past. And the other thing is, which is very important, is you are born here like new. You come here, you don't have any friends, any family, any network, and I know that because I have an experience. I born and raised in a refugee camp, and I know the importance of a network. But others who are newly refugees might not have it in mind because they have other worries and other things to know. And I started to build my network, and there were so much great people who have helped me build my network. And at the moment, our media platform is actually the third largest media platform in Sweden that so much of the Swedish people still don't know about because we speak in Arabic. And I would say we grew so much in terms of followers and in terms of actually becoming a legitimate business that actually generate money is because network and trust from our network.
And what would be your one point of advice to other youngsters who might be facing the same challenges, who have to start all over again? What would you advise them?
My advice will be is like, never stop dreaming, and dreams are for free, and don't imagine your future. And this is why I like what you're talking about now, about imagining future. I still like imagine my future every day differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes my network or my family will think I'm a little bit crazy, but whatever I feel like imagining, and I imagine my future, and just build your network, and don't be afraid. And as much as possible, like, you're lucky to actually to start over again, because many people cannot start over again. So I think
many people cannot start over again.
The way of like starting over again could be really great.
Yeah. I think that's a great piece of advice. Starting all over again, you have to change your mindset and seeing opportunities. We're going live right now back to Niels. Stay tuned with us, because maybe there are some questions for you as well. Niels, how's it going on Instagram?
I go in the studio again, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, switching.
How's it going on Instagram, Niels?
Well, it's going really good, and I want to say hi from the award to you, Saber, as well.
Say hi back.
Hi back to everyone here. So we have a lot of people tuned in, and we were mainly talking about the story how Diawara came to Italy, and how he built up his own company there. He created a game for inclusion of people, so how to connect Italian folks with the folks who are coming in from whatever country they come as a refugee from. And it became very successful. And what's beautiful now is that he's actually employing Italian moms in his store, as they are very poor themselves or cannot find work, to learn skills and earn money so they can grow. So do you imagine that? That's the world upside down. So someone who's not maybe very much welcomed comes in the country, builds a store, and then helps people in the country.
Yeah,
I mean,
amazing. Lovely to hear that. And people are also, of course, following our session news. Are there maybe some questions also for Alexandra or Kotada from the people that are watching your live session?
I wish. Yeah, no, it's very challenging to watch the live session plus an IG live session. So I think that's why there's not so many questions about that session. So I'm very sorry for really hogging the community in the IG live.
Okay.
But that says nothing about the quality of the conversation, because I see the engagement there, which is amazing. So Alexandra, from your side, well, I heard it. I really loved it. My community is very much engaged with Diawara, so sorry for that.
Yeah, no, lovely. Good luck with the conversation, and hopefully see you soon again. Well, thank you, Niels. And we're actually closing off this section. I actually want to go to the next segment, because we're going to talk about a very important partnership, the Prospect program. But before I will explain a little bit more about that, let's watch a video of our Dutch State Secretary who's actually involved and will explain a bit more about this. Let's watch the video.
Today, we heard many stories about young people that have been forced to move. These are very difficult stories to listen to, moving stories, but also stories that inspire me, stories that bring hope, because they focus our mind not just on the problems that they have experienced, but on the potential that they bring as young displaced, a potential that we must not allow to be wasted, not for them and not for us. Today we have about 40 million young people that are displaced. All of these people were born this century, because on average now it takes 20 years before a refugee can return home. Imagine that time. It takes you from being born to earning a master's degree, and you cannot be home. That's why I so wholeheartedly agree to the statement of this session, that with the right support, at the right time, and with the right access to opportunities, we can and we shall unlock the potential of those young people. We can create prospects for them. It's with this in mind that the government of the Netherlands last year launched a major program together with UNHCR, UNICEF, ILO, IFC and the World Bank. Multilateral actors capable of really engendering systemic change while keeping the individuals at the heart of their mission. We've called this program Prospects for a reason, because it's precisely this that we aim to deliver to them. This is our answer to a growing recognition that humanitarian assistance is absolutely critical. But it simply isn't enough. It's not enough to help individuals that are forced to flee their home, and it's not enough to help the communities that receive them. What we really need, is a long-term, sustainable development approach. Together with our partners, we implement these programs in the MENA region and in the Horn of Africa. They provide refugees, displaced people and their host communities access to protection, including mental health and psychosocial support, access to education, access to jobs, access to a future. We hope that together with them we can create dignified life conditions for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Just imagine what prospects can unlock. It's young people that are at the heart of these interventions. We simply cannot afford to lose a whole generation. And what we want is equally simple. We want to enable young people to build a dignified future for themselves and for the societies in which they live. What we want is to make this world a better place than what they inherited, together with them. What we want for young displaced people is not just for them to survive, but to thrive. That is our aim. Nothing more, but certainly nothing less. Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful words from our Dutch State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kitty van der Heijden, talking about this special program, Prospects, which is a partnership which has to do a lot about education, about skills, and making sure that youngsters are being heard and also being helped. We're calling right now with someone who's working as well on the Prospects program and can tell us a bit more about it. Kimberly Davis is the UNICEF lead for employability and skills. Kimberly, welcome.
Hello Saber, and greetings from Nairobi, Kenya, where UNICEF and partners are working across the region on the Prospects program to enable youth in various life circumstances, in and out of school, in refugee camps, and displaced in their countries, to succeed in education, work, and life. And so through Prospects and similar programming, thanks to the support of the Netherlands, our aim is to ensure accessible, inclusive, and safe opportunities and pathways for learning to earning into employment or entrepreneurship. So what actions are happening on the ground here in the region? So equipping youth with relevant and recognized education and skills, literacy, numeracy, 21st century skills, financial, digital, expanding mentoring, networking, and job matching schemes, empowering youth through the Upshift initiative that Anita spoke about earlier from Rwanda, into developing solutions and skills development, and encouraging youth to contribute to policy and program design. And so this is through our initiative, an innovative tool called UReport that we use across many countries for community participation and user-generated content. And so far we have 10 million UReporters on the move worldwide. So increasingly what we're seeing, Saber, is the use of innovations and technologies for greater programming impact and to have a greater reach. And of course, this means ensuring digital access for young people. Mm-hmm. So a very exciting new initiative that we have and that we're developing is the youth agency marketplace called Yoma, an ecosystem matching talent with job and learning platforms such as GIZ's Etinge with free open source content and peer-to-peer support within a market-enabled digital environment. It includes incentives to learn through a token system that is used in real-time local marketplace and for digital learning spaces to access more advanced learning. So particularly we see, and Alexandra mentioned this, so during this COVID context, we know that there's prolonged lockdowns, movement restrictions, suspension of school and other activities for young people. So these innovations and technologies are even more important at the moment. So the youth challenge that Alexandra has mentioned, and we're also hosting towards the end of the month in November, the Better Together Africa program with amazing partners that will be held in late November and designed to engage young people with valuable learning and professional opportunities. So post opportunities will include a referral path to YOMA and rewards such as networking, mentorship, and internships.
Which is quite important, Kimberly. You were actually mentioning about new technology, and I think it's really interesting to hear from one of our co-guests who has an interesting story about it, because he flew from the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo to Malawi and actually became a drone pilot. Let's watch a video of how he did it.
So now, as it was flying, we had, because the wind is coming from this side, we have to make sure that we don't. My name is Regeza. I am from DRC, but I am a refugee currently in Malawi, in Zareka refugee camp. I got the chance to enroll in the African Drone and Data Academy offered by Virginia Polytechnic through UNICEF here in Malawi. And then that curriculum is a 3-month curriculum where we learn about drone technology, data analysis, and we get certificates. I arrived in Malawi in 2016, and I was really very challenged in the first 2 months because I have a French background, and Malawi, they speak 2 languages. They speak Chichewa and they speak English. Then I was really given a challenge to learn the languages. I got 3 certificates, and those certificates have given me the power to work for Superhero. I'm working for Superhero here in Malawi, and probably in Mozambique and also in DRC, my country. We use drones. We use drones to collect blood sample from health centers that are hard to reach in Malawi. I want also to do something for my place, and also I want to show my fellow refugees that yeah, we can do something, and there's some people out there think about them, they want their well-being, that's why they can deploy something to assist them.
Yeah, Regeza, a very beautiful story about your own journey. I think many people are wondering, how did you actually come up to do something with a drone?
So for me to do something with the drones, it started with accepting to learn new skills. And coming from a country like Congo, DRC, as a French-speaking country, and then being in Malawi, I first started learning English, and I had the vision because back in my country, I did Polytechnic, but I didn't complete. And then when I came to Malawi, I had still the idea of doing Polytechnic. And when I came to Malawi in the refugee camp, I went into many programs and got the chance to meet the program lead of the African Drone and Data Academy from Virginia Polytechnic. And he's the one who said, hey, I'm running this program, and I would be interested if you can apply for it. Then that's how I applied for it. And I learned.
And Regeza, what triggered you to say, let's apply for it, let's do something with the drone?
First, because I needed to do Polytechnic, and second, because I saw challenges in a refugee camp like Dzaleka in Malawi, where people don't have access to healthcare like easily. Sometimes they go to Kamuzu Central Hospital, which is very far, like 50 kilometers. And then I said, if I get the skills, I can use these skills and like use drones to like, maybe supply vaccines in a refugee camp from like hospital, like the Central Hospital.
Regessa, it's really beautiful what you're doing with drones and how you're actually making a change in your community. There's actually a question from the people watching with us right now, because they're asking you, what advice do you have to all young displaced people?
First of all, what I have to tell young displaced people is to grab the opportunity once it is available. For me, I got one opportunity for the drone. I applied for it, I worked on it, and I really committed for it. And then after the program, I got the certificate, and I was useful. And the same program, they started saying, hey, Regessa, you can do this, you can do that. So grab the opportunity once it comes, and then work for it.
Yeah, grab the opportunity when it comes and just go for it. Thank you very much for this lovely piece of advice, and thank you very much for sharing your story. There's also some other questions right now for other speakers, and one of the questions for Muzoon is, what can I as young people do to guarantee sustainable quality education in a context of conflict?
Thank you. This is such a great question. I think, first of all, we have to use our voices to encourage world leaders and the change makers and decision makers in general to help, because first of all, we have to spread awareness. And I think as young people, we can play such a significant role in this side, because we can use our ideas, and we don't have to underestimate our ideas. We have to use them and to tell others about what's going on in the world, especially in countries that face war and other challenges, and they don't have access to education and to other rights as well. So I think just we have to first spread awareness, and then try to encourage our communities to take part, to donate, for example, or also to talk and use our voices for them to reach actually to politicians, so they can give support and donate more for people who are vulnerable and they don't have access to their rights.
Yeah, Muzoon, thank you very much for this lovely answer. You have to take initiative yourself, making sure that everyone is being heard, and also involving the policymakers. Write to them, send an email to them, send a tweet. And we have one last question to Kimberly. Maybe a very short answer to this question. How do you think we can best create youth participation for youth on the move? Could you briefly share your vision on that?
So we've mentioned a few of the initiatives that are underway, and I really think that there's a multiplier effect. So when we create the opportunities for young people, and with the right investments that support all young people, including youth on the move, they are a very large force of empowered change makers in this world, and they impact their families, their communities, and their countries. So the more we offer those opportunities and we make those accessible, the more they're able to participate, and there's a spiral effect, as we saw from many of the inspiring stories today.
Yeah, thank you very much. So when we create those opportunities, you actually get a special effect where other people are going to participate, which creates opportunities again. Thank you very much. That was the last question for today. I actually want to wave to all the speakers, all the participants of this forum. Thank you very much for your inspiring stories and for your input and perspective, and hopefully see you soon, and all the best. Well, we have been coming at the end of this session. I hope you were truly inspired. For the people that were watching right now home, thank you very much for your effort, for your participation, and for your quality questions. You helped me out really much. It was a pleasure doing this, and hopefully see you soon in the next session. But for now, I have to say goodbye. Thank you very much, and good luck. Bye-bye.
I believe that changing the world can be achieved by helping youth to dream and believe that they can achieve their dreams. I'm Isra Assana, a passionate young lady. I studied civil engineering and then I shifted my career to be an entrepreneur by finding my own tech company, where I was able to travel the world, share others' experiences, and discover new cultures.
We need to be Sanat. Sanat, it's an Arabic word meaning a safe corner that you can rely on.
Living in the era of COVID-19 is tough, but we need to cope. And in order to do so, we have to be bold, flexible, and adaptable to changes. To those who are standing out there, youth, our future change makers, I want you to know that your life has a purpose and a meaning. You're not here to fill space or to be a background character in someone else's movie. You are the hero of your own. People you met and places you went to will never be the same if you will not exist. So let the whole world hear your echo.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Adlide from the GPE, the Global Partnership for Education, and welcome to our session. This session is on education in the COVID era and the skills we need for the 21st century. And I'm joined today from Lagos in Nigeria by my co-moderator, Chidi Kalswet. Hello Chidi, how are you going? And together, we've got a great set of panelists. Can we get the panelists up? Yes, hello. We have, you know, if I look at this panel, it reminds me of the Global Partnership for Education, and all of you are connected with us in some way. We have Lurit from Kenya down there in the bottom right, an activist from the One Campaign. We have Elias from the Government of Kenya, the Director General of Education. And at the top, we have Pascale from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Alexa from Microsoft Corporation, and my good friend Mohammed, a peace activist and a GPE youth champion. Welcome to you all, so lovely to see you. Over to you, Chidi.
Thank you. The COVID-19 pandemic is testing the resilience of our national educational systems. It is testing our job markets and our economies as well. According to a recent report that I read, it states that at least half of the school children will not be able to access basic numeracy skills, writing skills, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking skills. And it's...
We're losing Chidi. Yeah, so Chidi's just talking about the problems of education that existed even before the COVID era with the learning crisis. Chidi, I think you're back, right?
Yes, it's okay. Go on. Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
So Chidi was talking about the education crisis before. With the school closures and COVID have made it even worse. In particular, what concerns us at the Global Partnership for Education is the impact on equity, because the poorest kids really suffer when the schools are shut. So today, we want to talk about two things. We want to talk about education in the time of the COVID pandemic, and we want to talk about how we can build back better from this pandemic. With that, also, what are the skills that are needed in the 21st century? What are the skills needed to be ready for the workforce in the 21st century? Before we start, we've got a short video we want to show you from two amazing twins. Can we roll the video, please?
We definitely think that different skills will be needed in a post-COVID-19 world, because we saw that technology was changing the world of work even before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, the rapid changes that we saw in our workforce is going to be seen, and it's going to continue to evolve in that way. And so students and youth will definitely need different skills to be able to evolve to this changing workforce. And schools and governments can ensure that students have the right skills to join the workforce through collaborative efforts with industry partners who are going to be leading the world of work, so that we can work together with them and ensure that students are prepared for the job opportunities that will be available, and also involving youth networks and asking them what skills they believe they will be needing or what they do need at the moment when they are studying. So those are really important ways that governments and schools can ensure that students have the skills they need to join the workforce.
Wow, Marianne and Nival, two twins originally from Pakistan, now living in Canada. But how is that, hey? Well, how's that for a double act of activists? Really thoughtful points too that they made on the different skills that are needed in a post-COVID workforce, and the importance of involving both industry and youth themselves in defining what sort of skills are needed for the workforce of the future. At GPE, the Global Partnership for Education, we recently got involved about 100 youth networks around the world to think about what would be the priorities for them in having a strong and resilient education system. And if we can put it up on the screen, these are the 5 areas that they focused on when they thought through this question. Now, Chidi, you're going to ask the panel for some quick responses to these 5 points. But before we do that, you yourself have been involved in surveying youth through the African continent. Do any of these points here on the screen make sense to you or stand out particularly to you?
Absolutely, they are all extremely relevant. And the only thing that I would add to this would be the importance of vocational education, especially in a third world country like Nigeria, like Africa, where you still have a lot of people grappling with the skills they need to just provide for themselves and their families. But every single point that has been raised seems to resonate with every young person across the globe, across the continent, on what we must focus on at this point. If I'm to move on quickly, and thank you so much, Jeff, for the questions as well. If I'm to move on quickly to the panelists, and I would like to have their thoughts or ask them questions about what young people have stated as their priority. I would start quickly with Lurit, right? So do you think this is what we should expect from young people to prioritize at this time?
Absolutely. I totally agree with every single point that has been put on that particular, every single suggestion that the youth have based on these particular factors are very important. And yes, they are very valid. In fact, it's great to see that youth are able to come up with such ideas, you know? Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then Mohammed Sidibe, welcome as well. I would like to ask you the same. Any thoughts?
I think it's great that youth are prioritizing access to education, regardless of class, gender, location, and background. So to me, it's very important that those are the things that youth across the African continent are thinking about and will be essential to in the post-COVID world.
Thank you. Elias, would you like to add to that?
The priority the youth have put across is of paramount importance to them, and I really concur with that, because when it comes to education and training, employment, issues to do with their health, peace, and security, these are aspects that are very crucial to any youth that is, wants to establish themselves and want to have a future in their countries and the world at large.
Thank you, Elias. And then Pascal?
Well, thank you very much. I think these 5 exactly show why it's so important to involve youth. They definitely know what's important to be ready for the future, for the 21st century, and for good jobs. And I think it's really important to acknowledge the focus on girls and also to leave no one behind.
I agree.
Alexa, quickly, please.
So I was fascinated to see the suggestions from the youth, because I think they track very closely what we get out of international education thinkers and who come together through processes like the UN SDG setting. So it was great to really see that they're thinking in the same direction as the education system's aspiration. But also I felt like the focus from the youth was even stronger on the inclusion and the equity and gender equality aspects, which I think is fascinating, that they are pushing us to be more forward-looking than perhaps the decision makers are right now. So there'll be a great motive for change for us to help to evolve to a more inclusive and equitable education system.
Thank you so much. I want to move quickly to Lurit. Lurit, if you can hear me, I wanted to ask you, I know you have, you're a very strong activist with the One campaign, and you've been doing phenomenal work so far. So my question is going to be, can you tell us a bit more about your background and how the skills you believe you've developed over time has guided or helped you in the course of your journey as an activist?
All right. Thank you so much, Chidi, I'm very happy to be part of this forum that puts youth at the heart of service delivery and development, particularly quality education, and coming in with gender equality as well. And it's great to see that education is actually connected to youth generally, and that's based on their transition into today's world of work. It's great to see that. And genuinely for me, education is so much more than sitting in a classroom and just going through a theoretical aspect. For me, education is about saving lives, of which education has generally saved my life. Today, I live in Kenya. I am originally from South Sudan. My family left South Sudan following the civil conflict that has gone on over the years, over this particular period of time. And by them settling in Kenya, I've actually been able to go through school. And considering these particular factors, I've experienced so much to do with being a displaced person. And to make it even worse, a displaced girl, you know, and that in itself is a whole difficult situation. And by the fact that I've been able to attend school, I've been able to, you know, go through different experiences that have put me at the heart of understanding how much education has value to every single person's life. And I would say that now that I've gone through an education, I'm fully aware of what education is to the youth, you know, and it gives me a chance to start life on my own, considering the fact that I've been able to understand different things and I'm more aware as an individual. So I'll tell you, without education, displaced people and almost every single person in host communities are at risk of a poverty cycle, from unemployment to long-term unemployment to being trapped in informal unemployment. You know, the fact that they cannot go through certain progressive aspects. And quality education basically gives the skills for people to secure decent work, successfully enter the job market, and meet their potential. I'll just give a small story, just a very small one, very briefly. My personal experience as a displaced girl who's experienced education simply shows the fact that I'm able to articulate different things better. And also the fact that host communities are trying to create this, like a platform for us to exist. And I'm actually in the university, and I've seen multiple people not being able to complete school, unfortunately, because of different barriers that keep holding them back. And considering now that COVID has come up, a few girls have not even been able to complete school because they would have to resort to marriage to survive, you know, at the end of the day. So I'm genuinely impressed by GPE's efforts to work with countries and integrate refugees and every single individual towards education. And with confidence, I could say that because of education, I'm a girl who's been able to experience so much, and I'm able to come here and actually articulate better, articulate issues and, you know, learn better, critically think toward specific things. So that when I'm put in a certain space back in the country, I'm able to invite more people into the space. Thank you.
And that's such an important point that you've raised. Thank you so much. Let me quickly move to Mohammed. Mohammed, I know you're a GPE Youth Ambassador, and I am very familiar with your work, and I think you're doing also a very impressive work locally. Can you share a bit of your personal experience with us, right? Which skills, like practical skills, which practical skills do you think are very important in development?
Thank you, Chidi. The fact is, education saves lives and changes stories. Indeed, it transformed my life from one of war and trauma to one of hope and opportunity. I am where I am today, soon to be a lawyer, not because I was the smartest person in the room or the hardest working person, but because I received quality and inclusive education. But we must all understand that education is more than the act of going to school. It is possible in the 21st century today for a child to attend school for years and still not attain the level of learning necessary to be able to receive the job that will change their life. The World Bank reports that a large portion of children in school are not acquiring the fundamental literacy and numeracy skills they need to thrive in the workplace and power their careers and economy. So quality education is key. Sending schooling without learning must be prevented. And most importantly, school must also be relevant, teaching the skills needed in the labor market or even to establish a business. There is a gap between sometimes what is taught and what the marketplace requires. And when you have that gap, the problem becomes like, how do we challenge the educational system? For me, that's why beyond the basic skills, education must prepare students for life. The most important skills I learned from my development were how to think critically, how to examine issues thoughtfully, how to express my thoughts cohesively, and to problem solve. And to now even to an extent where I spend my time arguing about whether or not the comma was placed in the right place or not. But these are critical skills that help students become engaged citizens, and they have changed my life. They allowed me to be here today. They're the skills that every child should be learning. So to me, I think now more than ever, we have to bridge the gap between just people going to school, what is taught, and how to prepare students for the 21st century.
Wow. Mohammed, thanks for that story. And you and Lurit both examples of people who have come from really difficult circumstances, as a refugee from South Sudan, as a former child soldier in Sierra Leone, and it's education that made the difference. I'm really impressed by your point too there, Mohammed, that it's not just about getting into school and learning some basics, it's about the quality of the education you get. Elias, I'd like to come to you in Kenya, because in Kenya, in the last, I think, 15 years, you've made actually quite significant gains and progress in driving reforms of the education system. And I know you, as Director General of Education there today, have been a really key player in that. I think today you have near universal primary school enrolment across the country, and you've also reached gender parity in primary school, which really puts you up there at the front of the pack in countries that have been able to reform and drive change in education. But from your point of view, what priorities do you give skills development within the education system, and how important is that relative to the really foundational skills to be able to prepare children for the modern workforce?
Thank you again. So I'm also pleased to see the young people who are putting across their stories and so on, especially Lurit, and the fact that she was able to come over here, Kenya, because here in Kenya we have a refugee education policy, and we've tried our best to include our refugee community, especially from Somalia, South Sudan, and so on. So it's encouraging. Now, coming to your question, yes, Kenya has declared education fee-free, both in primary and day secondary education. And we have made a lot of effort in the last few years in terms of providing quality basic education and also at the skills level. So we, as a country, have basically been reforming our curriculum so that we are conscious of what the youth are saying here in terms of mismatch between what is taught within the school system and the requirements of the labor market. And we've tried to address these issues, especially coming at a time, especially in the 21st century, as much as we require technical skills, the so-called hard skills, we also require the soft skills, what we are now calling the 21st century skills, so that the learners are able, with their knowledge, if, for example, we have an engineer, we need an engineer that has the soft skills in terms of interpersonal skills, the communication skills, cooperation and cooperation with the rest, aspects of digital skills. These are very critical. And also in terms of providing the relevant skills for employment, the ministry has a standalone department, what we are calling TVET, Technical Vocational Education Training, where the youth are trained with the relevant skills that also, not just the hard skills of getting employment, but we also assisting them with some entrepreneurial skills. They're given skills on knowledge of finance, how to, be able to start up businesses, and so on. At the universities, we also have business centers that take care of the needs of the youth in terms of incubations and so on. Equally, to address also the large educated and employed in the country, we also have come up with internship programs. And today, almost every ministry in our country has the internship program, where the young people who graduate from universities are absorbed as interns, and they work for a certain period before they are formally employed within the government system. And during this time, the young ones are also given opportunities of training within the ministries. And the other aspect in terms of skills for development is when it comes to our, coming up with our skills courses themselves, industry is also represented within the committees in government. For example, at our Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, we have industry represented there. and they're able to tell us what the labor market requires, we also give opportunities for industrial attachment.
That's fantastic.
So that
that's really good. Congratulations, Elias. Kenya is clearly making significant strides in advancing this. I'd like to move to another government representative, if I may, Pascale from the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You know, the Netherlands is sort of considered a bit of a trendsetter, a global leader in social and economic development at home. Can you tell us a bit about what you do in supporting other countries in education and skills development to support their children for the modern workforce?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me. I think the Netherlands and GPE have been partners almost from the start. And it's a privilege to participate and to be inspired by so many of the panelists. Well, the Netherlands believes that education is a human right, and youth education and work is a priority in the Dutch Development Cooperation policy. So we believe that access to 12 years of free, quality and inclusive education is fundamental for every young child. And we proudly support many initiatives, and I will name a few. We, of course, strongly believe in GPE as the coordinating a multi-stakeholder partnership to achieve more impact for children and youth. We also support Education Cannot Wait to provide education for refugee and displaced children and youth in crisis situations for a better future. And we believe we need to bridge the gap between education and the labor market. As my colleague from Kenya also said, we need special attention for future skills. And those are both the technical skills and the soft skills, critical thinking, problem solving, for future work and future challenges. And we need to focus on girls. I think recently there was a report that if we invest in girls, not only from a moral perspective or an equity perspective, but it also increases 10% of the GDP of countries. So there's also a very economic strong point to be made. And lastly, we also support through the Dutch embassies, and they are in the countries that the other panelists are as well. We support local initiatives to improve skills of young women and men so that they are better prepared for the job market, the Nexus Skills and Job Program. And we also support through the Orange Corners program many young people in entrepreneurship. How do you become an entrepreneur and what skills for the future do you need for that? And then lastly, we have a really rich program, and I'm really proud to be able to represent the Dutch government. But we also aim to improve the professional and university education by support to the cooperation between the Dutch and the local knowledge institutes and universities in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia through the Orange Knowledge Program.
There's a lot there. Thank you. Chidi.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pascal. I want to quickly move over to the private sector. It's a sector that's extremely important, especially when it comes to education. So Alexa is the Director of Education, EMEA region for Microsoft. Alexa, I know you work in Microsoft, right? And you're very digital inclined, but I really would love to know, the Youth Manifesto spoke to the digital skills that are needed for today's jobs, but is it really key that every young person must have digital skills as their key points or major points of operation at this time?
So I think right now we've seen actually a huge acceleration in the requirements for digital skills. I think already prior to COVID, we saw globally and also in Africa a huge skills gap when it came to digital. And that gap consists of two main areas, one being the basic digital literacy. There's still a huge amount of the population across the world, even among young people who are digitally excluded, who don't have the access and the opportunity to develop very basic digital literacy, which enables them to be a digital citizen and a digital consumer within the way that life is increasingly evolving today. And at the same time, we also see a huge gap when it comes to those higher level digital skills, which could be important for the world of work. And we see on one hand, within those higher level digital skills, which are necessary for work, that almost every job is becoming more digitalized. Jobs which were traditionally very much focused on face-to-face only are requiring some level of digital literacy to be able to navigate, say, a booking system or to collect online payments or to do very fundamental tasks, whether you're a taxi driver or a hairdresser, to do fundamental tasks that can help you use the digital tools that can support a business. But then at the same time, this importance of having very sophisticated digital skills that enable us to really build the services and solutions of tomorrow, and to enable economies to have a locally active digital economy, which is really creating and building solutions which are locally relevant and locally important, diverse and inclusive. And so there is a big challenge right now to make sure that we have these skill sets. It's been accentuated by the pandemic, and so we see this actually accelerating in terms of a problem. And so I think the youth have really hit the nail on the head when they've said that this needs to be a priority for their education systems to ensure that they're actually able to face this digital future more effectively. Thank you.
Alexa, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks so much. For you people out there, I've just been told there are hundreds of people watching this, all from Sudan, Uganda, Zambia, and Nigeria are 4 countries. And let me say, if you want to ask a question of any of the panelists or make a comment, press the Ask the Speaker button, and it'll allow you to do that. So we've been talking about skills. Skills needed for jobs of the future include things like life skills, like having the confidence to speak up, to take on a challenge, to raise your hand. Have a look at this.
When she raised her hand, it was to reach the highest point. When she raised her hand, it was to touch the stars. To find a cure. To give us a reason to dream. When he raised his hand, it was to stand up for his rights. To start over. To learn against all odds. When she raises her hand, it's to answer yes, to seize her future. Every change starts with a powerful act. Raise your hand. Fund education.
Campaign we launched just last month to raise significant money for education. We'd welcome you to and invite you to join us in raising your hand. Go to raiseyourhand.net and you can see some terrific sort of advocacy stuff that we've got there to really push along the education financing needs. We'll be right back with the next part of our panel in just a moment. Well, we're here. We'll keep going. Okay, so we've been talking about skills that are needed for the 21st century. Let's have a little look at COVID. I mean, COVID caused massive disruption to learning. We at the GPE, at the Global Partnership for Education, are fully aware of the extent of the crisis to learning that was caused by COVID, but we can also see some opportunity. And we think that's where we need to be focused. The opportunity to build back better, to build stronger, more resilient education systems. Alexa, how did Microsoft support the continued learning through the COVID pandemic? I know you were very involved. And the next question I've got for you while you're there is, what role does technology play in helping governments to find solutions at scale?
So as soon as the pandemic hit, our education team ended up being kind of first responders for ministries of education, for schools, for teachers all around the world as they had to switch to fully online and remote learning in very, very short periods of time. And so we really spent a huge amount of time supporting all of the education systems that we work with across the world in using Teams for education as a way to connect students and teachers so that they could continue working and learning together at distance. And fully aware that, of course, many countries, particularly in Africa, are faced with huge disparities when it comes to connectivity, to availability of appropriate devices for education, as well as teacher and student skills. So we teamed up with UNESCO and the other partners of the Global Coalition for Education and COVID Response, including GPE, but also other institutions like the World Bank and other private sector partners, and started to work very closely with ministries of education who wanted really deep support in terms of thinking about their strategy and approach. And so we worked really closely with countries like Senegal to help them create an end-to-end strategy, including rapidly scaling up to mentor teachers who could support other teachers across the country, giving how-to tutorials which were broadcast on TV and radio so that people could connect, testing out methodologies that you could do kind of what we called emergency pedagogy with very low data consumption and intermittent data access, so that we could really make sure that as many students as possible could continue to access learning despite the pandemic.
Yeah, extraordinary. Thank you, and thanks for your contribution. Chidi.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So Elias, over to you quickly. I would like to ask, I know the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya hasn't escaped it, and so many young people are out of school at the moment. So how can you ensure that the most vulnerable children, including girls, are not left behind, especially at such a difficult time?
Thank you very much. During this pandemic, as you are aware, the UN declared that the right to connectivity is a right to education. So the right to education, based on what we have learned during this pandemic, needs to be revised to include the right to connectivity. And as a country, we are equally affected. But in terms of equity and inclusion, be it gender, regional, or to do with the special needs children, we have come up with so many, interventions in terms of policy formulation. First of all, as a country, when it comes to the vulnerable children, girls and so on, we have come up with policy. For example, in our ministry, we have the gender in education policy that addresses issues to do with gender, so that as teaching takes place even in class, our lessons are gender responsive, so that teachers are not tempted to teach only boys, but also include girls in the class, to give them the opportunity to raise their hand and ask questions and so on. Equally, in the gender education policy, we are addressing aspects to do with barriers to education at the demand level and also at the supply level. Demand in the sense that if the household is not demanding education, we tend to remove those barriers, include giving, for example, scholarships, giving uniforms to these children so that they are able to attend school like the rest, providing meals, school health and nutrition policy that we have come up with. And at the supply level, we are providing all textbooks to children, irrespective of where they come from. We are also equipping schools with facilities that are required in form of even teachers and so on. Equally, we have come up with targeted.
Well done, Elias.
That's really impressive, Elias. And I think on the textbooks, I've read somewhere that not only did you get a textbook to every child, way ahead of your goal of having it done in a couple of years' time, but you also were able to review the whole procurement system and get textbooks done considerably cheaper. So congratulations again to Kenya. Lurit, could I come to you, please? What advice would you have for governments to build back better so that all children could leave school with sort of the confidence they need and the skill set for the 21st century workforce?
Okay, thank you very much. I'd proceed by saying education is simply preparation for opportunity. Yeah. And quality education is basically sustainability throughout opportunity. And the advice I'd give to governments, I'll give it in 3 pointers. 1, accessibility and sustainability, availability and relevance and adaptability. 1, building back is so much more than a catchphrase. You know, it's a commitment to ensuring that every single child is able to access quality levels at quality education at any level, beginning with race, identity, and all those particular things. And this factor is, yes, before students can leave and join the workforce, the question is, how sustainable is it? Can they stay in school and actually learn what's relevant at that particular point and go all the way to the end and prevent any kind of barrier, for example, dropouts and all those particular type of things? Secondly, we can see that even before COVID, there were so many barriers. Allow me to speak on the girl child specifically. First of all, we can see that there's been so many issues to do with physical and sexual violence, be it legal, okay, sincerely, very illegal. But the thing is, girls tend to face increased risk. In as much as we're trying to come up with progressive realization, they still experience certain barriers that keep on affecting how they are. So the question in this particular case, building back better simply means we need to eliminate all kinds of barriers, be it economic or social, so that we can bring in gender equality in this particular factor. Lastly, I would like to say that yes, for sure, before any student gets into the workforce, they need to get in touch with 21st century skills. And that's what's really missing. That's really the gap, you know? They need to critically think, solve problems, and they need to creatively think so they can build more to the already existing labor market and sustain further generations. Thank you very much.
Great point. Thank you. Chidi.
I'll quickly also, Pascal, just in 1 minute, about 1 minute, 30 seconds, right? The Netherlands is a very progressive country and has achieved quite a lot in gender equality. My question would be, what needs to be in place for girls and boys to challenge the stereotypes about career options? Your thoughts would be highly recommended.
Well, thank you very much. First, let me agree with Lurid that schools have to be a safe place for girls. I mean, without that, we can't begin. And stereotypes, I always think when I wanted to become an ambassador, all the ambassadors were gray and bald and men, and I didn't know what they looked like. And then I was ambassador in Mozambique, and my son just picked up the phone because it was the French ambassador calling me, and he said, "Mommy, the French ambassador wants to talk to you. Do you want me to tell her to get back to you?" So he's 11. He's a boy. So he's under the impression that all the ambassadors are female. So we can change things in a generation as long as we have role models, as long as we talk to teachers, as long as we talk to students and push the girls that they can become whatever they want. And we create the conditions for them to be safe and strong and to pursue their dreams.
Thank you so much. Create an environment to be, strong enough to pursue their dreams. Mohammed, let's quickly come back to you with this question. You've shown us the value of education in your life. It is so obvious. What recommendations do you have for countries so that children and youths are better prepared for the workplace? Because that's what I find is the missing link. No preparedness for workplace experiences.
Without sounding redundant, make this brief. Preparing youth and children for the world of works means we have to ensure that the entire education system is inclusive, equitable, and delivers quality education to each child, irrespective of gender, income inequality, class, or race. At the heart of transforming education for the 21st century is financing. Spending limited resources wisely, fair, and ensuring that systems support the most vulnerable. So we're living on the precipice of a generational catastrophe on account of COVID-19. Protecting domestic financing in the face of severe economic and budget constraint must be paramount. As should be donor financing that doesn't deprioritize education in the face of a crisis. The private sector's support is also key to partner with ministries of education and organizations like the Global Partnership for Education to ensure curriculums are relevant, public systems deliver quality education, provide the skills needed for the 21st century, and focus on the furthest being first. And this goes beyond one school, one student, or one textbook to delivering results that can impact every school, teacher, and student across countries, regions, and for generations to come. And lastly, students must be prepared for the future, however uncertain that future may be. We need to go beyond the literacy and emphasize learning outcomes together with social and emotional development, critical thinking, and other 21st century skills.
What do you mean by that, Mohammed? Sorry, just if I could just interrupt. When you talk about 21st century skills, someone came in on the chat line, by the way, and said, hey, can you ask Mohammed that? Can you be a bit more specific about what sort of skills are needed for the 21st century?
I think what we've learned in the 21st century is prior education is being taught. The pedagogy of education is still being taught for the Industrial Revolution, which means like labor intensive and this manual labor intensive. Teaching for the 21st century means most of the things that are now happening and most of the job market moves more so to just like labor intensive, physical labor intensive, to more of critical thinking. More like how do you use a computer? How do you use the advanced setting of a computer to make sure, because most work system eventually will move online. That's just not saying like agriculture will not be important. What I'm saying is for the most of society, even in terms of agriculture, it means people have to learn how to use machinery. And these are all 21st century skills that are required and necessary for the youth of today to be prepared for the job market. So I think when we teach kids in our schools, we have to teach them beyond just like the classic of, the likes of Descartes and all these Western philosophers. We have to really teach them what it means to be able to create jobs, what it means to start a business, what it means to be able to use a computer.
Thank you. Chidi.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us today. You all have highlighted the importance of having the knowledge and necessary skill sets for our children and our young people to continue to thrive even in the 21st century workplace and in their entrepreneurial pursuit. So thank you all so much for sharing your important voices.
And thanks to the panel from me too. Thanks to you, everyone of you watching this from home or your office. I suspect most of you are actually at home, like we all are around the world. This was the last session in Studio Blue. I'd invite you to join the wrap-up session of this Youth at Heart Forum with Minister Kaag from the Netherlands in Studio Orange. So thank you again, wonderful panel. Thank you, Chidi. Goodbye home.